Let's talk 2026 changes. It's a good little segue into changes to leave, to overtime, to contracts. Um, let's start with leave. What's some of the biggest leave related changes that us as employees need to be prepared for in 2026?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest ones that's recently been announced is baby Priya's bill. So what that means is there is more protection for employer funded paid parental leave for those individuals who unfortunately experience a stillbirth or a death of a child, meaning that if that situation does occur, an employer can't cancel that paid leave. So if I was to have a stillbirth, for example, and my employer gave 12 weeks pay, the employer can no longer cancel that. So because that's employer funded, so there's more protection in regards to that, which personally I think is a great thing because there's so much more post you have to deal with when that situation unfortunately occurs. There's talk on the streets that come 2027 proposed ban of non-compete clauses in employment contracts. So we're predicting to see and hear more about that next year. Again, it's only proposed, but that will be a shake-up. And again, one of those things we're going to have to change our employment contracts. Currently, the non-compete clauses in an employment contract are there. They are hard to uphold, but they're there for protection. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. So that's something to look at. Again, the recent changes with the Coles and Woolies case that a lot of people may have heard of in regards to the underpayment and how annual salaries are managed, which is linked to what's called an offset clause. Previously, we would measure over roughly a 26-week period to see if there was any underpayments present. Now it's per pay run. So we're having a lot of pushback with clients in relation to this ruling. This seems ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Whether I agree with it or not, it's where we're at. So really comes down to record keeping, the way the clauses are drafted to make sure that's up to date. And a big one that's going to change 1 July is Payday Super. So what that means is when you process payroll, super must be processed at the same time and paid into the employee's superannuation account within 7 days. So that's going to be a big change for businesses. Unfortunately, there are a lot of employees out there that withhold super or don't pay it or delay, that say they can't afford it, etc., etc. Superannuation is an employee entitlement. It needs to be paid. So from an employee's perspective from protection, I think it's a good thing. Personally, as a business owner, when I process payroll, I have the super set aside. There's obviously so many ways to look at it. But yeah, that's coming in. So that's going to be a big change. Making sure from a payroll perspective that businesses are across that.
I think it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, look, I've been involved in a couple of businesses that have not paid super. And unfortunately, we don't it's not something you do all the time, is it? We don't go and check our super. We might get a statement at the end of the year and go, oh, I don't know if that's right or wrong. But you're right. There's a lot of employers in the past that have used superannuation to cash flow their business. And it's not their money. It's employee money. It's a part.
Correct.
And I think this is a fantastic change that comes into play. So it's a funny thing. I wrote it down. So it comes into play from 1 July 2026.
Yes. Yeah. And I can only imagine, the external bodies that are going to be pushing and auditing and across this. So I think if you're a business owner out there, just make sure that you're ahead of it and have everything in place to make sure that there's no non-compliance.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, well, our payroll systems will do it, but I suppose from an employer point of view, this is about just management of cash flow and making sure that you've got that in your budgets.
Correct. So,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Now, you spoke about rulings before. Let's talk about there's a federal court ruling around the wording and management of offset clauses in employment contracts.
Yes,
What does
yeah.
that mean practically and operationally to us as employers?
Yeah, so operationally, it means that payroll need to reconcile their each pay run an employee's hours versus what they've paid. So generally, we might say that award says you get paid $25 an hour and $3 for this and $4 for this and 1.5 for working on a weekend, for example. So instead of doing all that, overall, I'm going to pay you $38 an hour. That's going to cover no matter what day allowances. Previously, from a HR payroll perspective, we would run those tests over a 6-month period to make sure that businesses aren't underpaying and that $38 does cover things. Now you have to run these tests per pay run. So if you pay every week, making sure that what the employee is paid equals to what they've worked and that there's no underpayments. Now, previously, 1 week it might be okay, they've worked more than what they get paid, but we know in a month's time it's going to be really quiet and they're going to get more than what they've actually worked. Now that's not the case. This ruling is going through the courts at the moment to be appealed and challenged and everything. However, what we've been communicated now is you must action this. So there could be more changes to come. But what we're trying to encourage our clients and our network from an education perspective is make sure you review your employment contracts and this clause, which will sit under the remuneration, because there's more nuances rather than just saying $38 an hour covers all allowances and penalties. You need to list them. So make sure that's up to date and then make sure from a payroll processing perspective, the reconciliations are done every payroll and that you have proof and evidence in that. So yeah, it can be quite a burden on some operations.
Yeah, and you sort of made a mention that it was either Coles or Woolies that have got to pay
Yeah.
a fair bit of money in this. So,
Yes,
um,
correct.
is that fair to say that for normal employees that are working full time, 40 hours a week or whatever it is nowadays, 38.5, um, that won't cover them? It'll more cover the casual worker?
No, it will cover them. It's more from those that are on, I'm on $70,000
Right.
as well. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's on the annual salary and also the ones that pay higher even up from an hourly rate. So it's quite complex. Even
Yeah.
it took the professionals quite a bit to get their head around, and it was very interesting seeing, say, on the likes of LinkedIn, all the lawyers out there that took a few days to communicate their thoughts on it because it took a while to wrap your head around.
Mm.
And even still now, and we do have pushback from clients, and I understand that pushback. I really do. That's one of those things we just have to be across.
That's right. Be
Yeah.
across it, and at the end of the day, you can't control it. You just need to have a process to make sure you're doing it.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, brilliant.
Correct.